I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. The H in Reg H is short for Hisui. I know, scandalous. Tell me it's not true. But anyways, what is going on YouTube? Espresso Shucko here, and today I wanted to talk about Hisuian Decidueye. In case you missed the plethora of announcement videos, including my own, Regulation H was announced to go live in September, with the main premise being no legendary Pokemon or Paradox Pokemon, which means we're going to be entering a format where some Pokemon that might not have had that great of a chance or might have struggled in a restricted format might now be able to shine. And honestly, I think Hisuian Decidueye might be one of those Pokemon, but I think it's definitely got potential. Its typing is a little bit up in the air. It is kind of scattered. As far as grass fighting goes, it is 4 times weak to flying. It's weak to fire, psychic, ice, poison, and fairy. So counting the 4 times weakness and the other weaknesses, it does have 6 weaknesses. But as far as its resistances goes, it does resist dark, rock, electric, grass, ground, and water. So it does have 6 resistances. So that could be a little bit spicy, and plus you can always terrestrialize this thing to change the dynamic of its type. And honestly, I really like the idea of Tera Fire or even Tera Dragon on this thing. It's got a great ability in the form of Scrappy. Scrappy protects it from Intimidate, which means we don't have to worry about its attack stat getting lowered, and it also allows Hisuian Decidueye to use its stab fighting type attacks to hit ghost types. It can also hit ghost types with normal type moves as well. So there's some food for thought. We got the gears going right now. We might have something to work with. Now, as far as Hisuian Decidueye stats go, we have a decent 112 attack stat. We have 95 in both its special attack and its special defense. So hypothetically, you could run the odd special attack on this thing. Maybe you could throw in a Leaf Storm. I'm fairly certain this thing does get Leaf Storm. We'll just double check that right quick. It does. So you could hypothetically run a Leaf Storm on an otherwise physical set just to catch your opponent off guard. So there is that. As far as our speed stat goes, we have a 60 speed, so this thing could hypothetically work in Trick Room. 80 defense is not the worst, and 88 HP is fairly decent, so potentially you could run a bulky fighting type owl here and go from there. And we'll just put Shadow Sneak right back on here before we go any further. What I was thinking is Hisuian Decidueye has a great stab option in the form of Leaf Blade, since this does have a base 90 power and it also has a boosted critical hit ratio. And then Hisuian Decidueye also has the signature move of Triple Arrows, which is a base 90 power fighting type attack, which also has, you guessed it, or rather you read it on the screen because it's right there, a high crit ratio on top of having a 50% chance to drop the target's defense 1 stage and also having a 30% chance to make the target flinch. So if you find yourself in a weird situation where Decidueye can move before the opponent, whether it be Speed EVs and Tailwind working together, or a Trick Room and lack of Speed EVs working together, you might be able to make something flinch with Triple Arrows. And if you get really lucky, you might be able to lower not only its defense 1 stage, but you might be able to get the flinch and the critical hit. So that's a thing. That looks pretty fun. And then as far as some coverage options go, Hisuian Decidueye gets Brave Bird, which is a base 120 flying type attack right there. And it does get Shadow Sneak, which is a nice priority ghost type attack here to pick some weakened things off. So what was I thinking with Hisuian Decidueye? Well, I think a Choice Band could be a really good item on this thing, since it will give it a 50% boost to its moves. And then Triple Arrows and Leaf Blade are going to have an astronomically high damage output alongside Brave Bird. Now, Brave Bird doesn't have stab, unlike Leaf Blade and Triple Arrows, but if you wanted to, you could put Tera Flying on this thing if you really wanted to do some major damage. You don't have to worry about the likes of Raging Bolt with its Priority Thunderclap, or Miraidon with its Electro Drift and Electric Terrain shenanigans going on, since neither one of those 2 Pokemon are allowed in the format, so Tera Flying might be a viable option. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with a Choice Banded Shadow Sneak coming in to pick off weakened opponents. So there is that. And then as far as some other moves go for Hisuian Decidueye, on the physical side, you know, the side that does benefit from the Choice Band, you do get access to close combat, so if you wanted something even stronger than triple arrows, you do have that. You could go for a dual wing beat, and while you're trading a little bit of power for a dual wing beat by dropping Brave Bird instead, you are also dropping the amount of damage you'll do to yourself with recoil, so there is that. Knockoff is a great option as well, since it'll naturally get a 50% damage modifier when it removes an item from the opponent. And on top of that, having a Choice Banded boosted knockoff means you're going to be doing a lot of damage each time you hit something for the first time and you're removing their items. So there is that. If you don't want to go for the priority option and you want to go for the boosted critical hit ratio, you do get Shadow Claw. It's base 70 ghost type damage right there with a crit ratio being modified as well. Or you could also go for Sucker Punch for the priority route, and then this way too, if your opponent's looking to finish you off and you think you can get the upper hand on them with the speed dynamic, whether it be Tailwind or Trick Room, like I mentioned with the triple arrows, Sucker Punch could be viable too, since that will let you attack an opponent that's already attacking you, or it could also let you attack an opponent that's trying to attack your partner. So food for thought there as well. And then U-turn could also be a nice move as well, since that not only gets the damage modifier from the Choice Band, but it also allows Decidueye to pivot out. As far as Tera options go for a Choice Banded set, you could run Tera Grass so you don't have to worry about Rage Powder redirecting your attacks away while also doubling down on your stab for Leaf Blade, and you also don't have to worry about Spore, but you're probably better off with Tera Fire in this case, and then that way you don't have to worry about getting burned and then having your attack stat neutered. So there is that for some consideration. What I was also thinking about for a Choice Banded set too, as far as the EVs go, is we can invest more into our bulk and our damage output. We can throw in Adamant Nature onto our attack stat and max investment to hit 180, which is very respectable while being powered up by a Choice Band. And if we invest a little bit of EVs into our special defense, we can hit 122, and then we can go for 204 EVs into our HP to boost us up to 189 points, which I think that could be phenomenal. Now, another good thing too about Decidueye's breakdown is Decidueye is an excellent recipient for coaching boosts, since your partner would then be raising Decidueye's attack and defense one stage. Well, half of 180 is 90 right there, so one boost right there, you're hitting 270 for your attack, and your Choice Band is making sure you just absolutely ruin things' days. And with your 100 defense right here, you're getting a 50, literally a 50-point boost right there with a +1 at that 50%. So you're going up to 150 defense right there, which is fairly considerable, which was also why I was thinking we could afford to run those EVs into the special defense with the HP, try to patch up the special defense, and then that way we can go from there. And what I was thinking about for a coaching partner, you could hypothetically run Cinderace. Cinderace is a fast Pokemon here with 119 speed, and with coaching, it's going to be relatively nice, but if it's not a safe position for Decidueye or Cinderace to go for that coaching, what you could do is you could turn your sights offensively with Cinderace. You can click Pyro Ball to do some pretty decent damage here with that base 120 fire type stab option right there. You could also go for Sucker Punch or High Jump Kick, both of which have their advantages. High Jump Kick is a little bit risky if you run into a Ghost type or your opponent protects, because you do lose half of your HP. But if you connect, that's a whopping base 130 damage right there. And with Cinderace's hidden ability of Librero, it's basically Protean. If for those of you who know what Greninja used to do, you basically change your type, but with Scarlet and Violet's nerf to both Librero and Protean, you can only use it for the first time when you are actively on the field, and then you have to switch out to switch your type again. But point is, if you wanted to, you could give yourself stab on either Sucker Punch or High Jump Kick. And the main reason too why I also have High Jump Kick here is if you go for coaching, well, Libero is still going to kick in and turn you into a fighting type, so you might as well have some fighting type damage right there. Now, you could run Protect instead, but I just wanted to highlight the potential combination of this so far. So another thing for Decidueye, if you wanted to go for coaching, is you could also go Riolu. I will constantly swear Riolu is a great coaching partner because of the fact that it does have Prankster. So coaching will have a +1 priority, which means you're definitely going to be outspeeding anything not going for a priority move. Decidueye gets that boost, and then from there, Decidueye could do some major damage. And plus, on top of that, Riolu, if you go for a max speed investment, it's a base 60 Pokemon like Decidueye. If you don't run the speed investment onto Decidueye and go for that bulkier set, your coaching is going to outspeed Sucker Punch since they're both +1 priority moves right there. So the faster speed stat goes first when you have a tie for your priority moves right there. So you go for the coaching with Riolu into Decidueye, you get that attack and defense boost. Decidueye goes for Sucker Punch, bam, you got him. Now, another idea that I was thinking about for Hisuian Decidueye is the fact that both Leaf Blade and Triple Arrows get access to a boosted crit rate, and I also did mention Tera Dragon. At least I'm pretty sure I did. Anyways, if I hadn't, Tera Dragon Hisuian Decidueye might be kind of funny as well, since Dragon typing Decidueye would resist fire, it would become neutral to flying, and it would still maintain its water resistance while also having its electric resistance intact. So, in theory, what you could do is you could pop that Tera Dragon and go for a Dragon Shear user, have a scope lens on Decidueye, and then you have guaranteed critical hits. So I was thinking maybe Cyclizar might not be a bad idea because you do have access to Dragon Shear, and Cyclizar is a base 120 speed Pokemon. If you have max speed investment right here, that hits 190, that's fairly fast. You're getting that Dragon Shear off into your Decidueye. There's no Flutter Mane or Iron Bundle in this format. You're getting that Dragon Shear off, and Decidueye is now threatening a lot of things. And also no Chen Pao in this format too, so you don't have to worry about the Fairy type or, you know, the two Ice types that I just mentioned, threatening both your Cyclizar and your Hisuian Decidueye. So you could go for the Dragon Shear, or you could go for a Shed Tail. Maybe you don't want to rely on the scope lens idea. Maybe you want to go for a Sword Stance set instead. You go for the Shed Tail. That'll take half a Cyclizar's HP to make the substitute, but Cyclizar will pass the substitute to a Pokemon switching in, so you could bring in the Hisuian Decidueye, and then you could be behind a substitute. You could go for a Sword Stance as well, so you could have that working in your favor. But another Dragon Shear Pokemon that I think could be really nice is Dragapult. So Dragapult here is the second fastest Pokemon in the format right here. So it's a base 142 Pokemon. With a Jolly Nature right here, you're going to be hitting 213 at level 50. The only thing actively outspeeding you is Electrode and Hisuian Electrode outside of like talent and choice item shenanigans. So you get that Dragon Shear off with Dragapult, then Hisuian Decidueye is ready to rumble. And the other thing too about Dragapult is it gets access to both Reflect and Light Screen right here, so you could maybe focus on a supportive Dragapult. You could even drop Reflect and run Will-O-Wisp instead, and then that way you can burn physical attackers right there, so you do have the means of applying pressure that way with the Will-O-Wisp. And you could also have Thunder Wave here, and then this way too you can slow down things, potentially make them miss their turn. Because this isn't a Prankster Thunder Wave, you can slow down Dark types as well, which would make them very slim pickings, or rather easy pickings. I don't know why I said slim pickings, but that can make Dark types easy pickings for Hisuian Decidueye with that triple arrows at the end of the day. That's the main point I'm trying to get out of me with the Thunder Wave, is you don't have to worry about Dark types being immune to Prankster Thunder Wave, since this isn't coming off of Prankster. This is just base Thunder Wave right here. So Dragapult is going to be a potentially good option to consider to pair with Decidueye, whether you want to run the Dragon Shear or not. So just some food for thought. Now, what I was thinking too is I did show the other moves, one going over the Choice Banded set, but with the Scope Lens and the Dragon Shear and the Tera Dragon working together, you're going to be hitting a critical hit modifier of 4. You start off at 1, so your crit rates are around 4%. At 2, so basically that would be when you have the Scope Lens applied right there. Now you're at 12% roughly. I think it's something like 12.5. I don't remember the exact number, but once you get to 3, which is when you either go for a move with a boosted crit ratio on top of the Scope Lens, or you go for the Dragon Shear without turning into a Dragon type, now you're at a 50% chance at that +3 critical hit modifier, and once you hit 4 and higher, it's a guaranteed critical hit. So now you don't even have to rely on moves that specifically have that boosted crit ratio. So hypothetically speaking, if you wanted to, instead of running triple arrows, you could also run close combat, and then now you're a guaranteed critical hit coming off of a base 120 stab type option. That's gross. There's no way looking around it. Like as far as like my like close up face in zoom for the opening gag like that, this is actually gross. Also, yes, I know. I realized what I just did to myself. Yeah. Anyways. Point is, guaranteed critical hit close combat, that hurts a lot of things. It doesn't matter how bulky you are not appreciating that, especially with Hisuian Decidueye's damage output with the critical hit modifier. You could do a lot of damage to things with Leaf Blade, especially a lot of water-type Pokemon. We might see the return of Water Paldean Tauros, and if we do, that's kind of nice for us because Scrappy protects us from Intimidate, which means we don't have to worry about them coming in, lowering our attack stat, and then we can threaten them back with a Stab Leaf Blade that is guaranteed to land a critical hit. We might also see the return of Dondozo and Tatsugiri and see them come back up in usage, and if we do, great. With the critical hits, we threaten the Dondozo by bypassing its defense boosts with Leaf Blade, and if they pop a Tera that's resistant to grass, like say maybe fire or steel, great. That leaves them wide open for our stab fighting type move of choice, whether it be close combat or triple arrows. And if it's triple arrows and we get that defense drop, we're going to be doing even more damage to that thing over time. Now, Tera Poison could be a little bit of a problem, but if it's not Tera Poison and they're going for the Tera Fire route to make sure they can't be burned with an unaware set, or if they're going Tera Steel, great. We can hit them for some super effective damage if it's Tera Steel. Now, knockoff could also be nice too, especially in the Dondozo matchup. If they're running, say, something like, say, a Citrus Berry or Leftovers to get back HP, we can just slap that item away and, you know, that'll make things a lot more manageable. And honestly, a guaranteed crit off of knockoff with the bonus damage of removing an item could just be nice in general. Now, as far as what I was thinking for some EVs, if we wanted to, we could try to go for a speedier route with this form of Decidueye with the Tailwind support potential. With 212 EVs into the speed, we do hit 107, so if we get a Tailwind up, that does allow us to outspeed Dragapult, which could be nice. And then I was thinking we could divvy up the rest of the EVs between HP and attack to have a little bit of bulk while also having some firepower. So I was thinking we could go for 180 EVs into the HP to bring us up to 186, and then the remaining 116 EVs alongside an Adamant Nature puts us up to 161, which could be relatively nice. But if we wanted to, we could also go the slower, bulkier route like I had for the Choice Bandit set. Maybe go 204 EVs into the HP to give us 189, and then have the more offensive geared attack right here with max investment and that 180. So that's what I was mainly thinking about for Hisuian Decidueye for both a Choice Banded and Dragon Shear supported set. So let me know what you think of Hisuian Decidueye down in the comments below, and I will see you next time.